Today, somewhere on Earth is headed for the west of America, a land where the pioneering spirit and dreams of fortune still live on. Al Fall is a musician. He plies the deserted roads of Arizona at the wheel of his old taxi. The concerts he gives in the little towns keep him in close contact with a slice of genuine America. Richard Fox, who grew up in the mountains of Wyoming, has chosen to live close to nature. By running the family ranch, he's perpetuating the cowboy tradition of the American West. The mountains and canyons of Utah still echo with Indian chants. Steph Davis has made this her playground. Climbing, skydiving, and base jumping, this is the daily bread of this enthusiastic woman in search of the extreme.
It kind of feels like being a bird when you have a wingsuit, because you can go where you want, you can steer it, you can, spin around in circles. It's just just an amazing thing that you could do that, You could be like a bird up there. It's kind of amazing that we have that chance.
Al Fall couldn't imagine his life any other way. For more than 20 years now, he's been living for and from his music, rock and roll. Al Fall, at the wheel of his old jalopy, travels Arizona's dusty deserts scattered with cactus. It's like he stepped right out of another age, America of the 1950s. Al, an exceptional musician, has become a well-known figure of Arizona's rock scene. One fine day, while hitchhiking across the states with a friend, he decided to put down roots here. They were 18 and were pursuing their dreams of freedom.
What we were planning is I wanted to go out to California. I heard a lot about San Francisco, and I had a few friends out there. But you see, we were kind of homeless at the time and had been pretty much on and off the street through most of our teenage years. So we were hitchhiking, and I wanted to go to California. And he says, it's October, and it's gonna be real cold if we're gonna be sleeping outside in San Francisco in October. So he says, let's go to Arizona. I met some people. It's a cool little town, and it's warm all winter long. I actually fell in love with Arizona when I first came here from the East Coast. The whole state is just filled with beautiful drives. I was getting ready for the show. I gotta get, I get pretty dirty driving around in this car, So I just, put on the good shirt for the gig.
Music is his livelihood, and his old guitar is his most valuable possession. On the roadside, under a leaden sun, he carries out the same unchanging ritual before each concert.
The guitar used to be like a red sunburst, and it had gotten smashed, actually. The whole thing got broken in, and when I repaired it, I was gonna paint it a different color or go back to the red sunburst. And when I primed it and sanded the primer, it kind of gave it looked kind of like the taxi, actually. So I decided I'd just clear coat it like this, and it matches.
42. Just about 100 miles away, baby, and I'll be home soon. Truck chuckle over in the background, maybe I can barely make you out. Here comes another one rolling by. I don't know why you leave me. You please me, only please yourself. Yes, I don't know why you please me, and you please me, only please yourself.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Al often plays solo. Guitars, drums, singing. He's kind of a one-man band. He's also his own manager, always on the lookout for the next gig. Today, Al's making a stop at Quilico to see Ed, a real character of the far west, like you can meet in Arizona.
Hey, Ed, how are you?
Howdy.
Really nice to see you again.
All right, welcome to Cowtown, Quilico.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Haven't
very
seen
much.
you in a while.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, last night I was up in Tucson, and I was playing a show, and me and Marcus got to talking, and we were thinking that maybe we could come out here. I'm thinking right about the last weekend of June. Maybe we could put on another concert out here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can do that. Or you can sit up on the stage, you know, it makes no difference. A lot of folks, just a few months ago, we had 8 bands here.
Oh, great.
I'll show you where you can set up. Now, come over here and,
All right.
yeah, you know, you can set up here on the stage and...
Ed Quilico gave his name to this improbable spot, a little village that he planned and built himself. Quilico is a very special ranch with its own saloon, church, prison, and cemetery. Ed, a Korean and Vietnam War veteran, has spent his civilian life keeping alive the flame of the pioneering spirit of the far west.
You know, out here, people is treated with respect. Everyone is welcome in this town. It's the code of the West. You don't judge a person by the color of his skin. You judge him by the contents of his character. And that's what we do here. But somehow, the West is losing that. The deserts is a school where final examinations are given every hour, every day, every month. You have to understand, you learn to live in correlation with animals, with rattlesnakes, with Gila monsters, everything that's here. You have to know where to find water because it looks green out there behind you, but that's a dangerous place. It can take your life. They'll find your bones weathered someplace. You have to know.
Al the Rocker also has a kind of crazy dream. In Mammoth, a small town with a population of 2,000, he's renovating the Blue Front Inn. This bar is a legend unto itself. It used to be owned by the son of a Chicago gangster who made a fortune during Prohibition. The Blue Front Inn also used to be a dance hall. And maybe this place in the heart of the desert will come alive again. At least that's what Al is hoping.
This is a 1965 Roe Ambassador. I bought it in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's a guy who, actually, the guy I bought it from had 3 or 4 of them, and out of them, he took all the parts together and pieced together one working one. And I've filled it with all my own records and records that I got from my father when he died.
Well, there ain't no use of me having a band anyhow. Just a couple of pounds that I got to learn to pay somehow. Well, now, $50 to buy the 3 ways. No use arguing, put it in the tank. Swear we had a gun to get ripped off too. So I called up Mama. I called up Papa. I called up my woman. But she's not home. I wonder where she's gone to.
Driving is something I do all the time as a musician. I do a lot of driving. Even if I just stay in Arizona and just play my regular circuit of shows in Arizona, sometimes I'll do 1,200 miles in a month, and that's just for the gigs.
Flat broke again.
Sometimes that's where I write songs because I have nothing else to do. My mind just starts to work overtime. But I like it. I like driving.
Feels like you never made it home.
250 kilometers from Al's place, just a stone's throw for Arizona, is the town of Bisbee and the Shady Dell, a very original motel. Here, the rooms are all vintage trailers. This morning, Al is paying a visit to his friend Justin, the moving spirit of the place. Like Al, he's a great fan of the fabulous 50s.
We don't have much of a history, and this was a big part of our culture, between the car culture, the movies, and the old diners, and unfortunately, everything's fading away. Nobody knows what these diners were like anymore. They're pretty much all gone.
For me, to get to Bisbee in the taxi, it's, 3 hours with no air conditioning, holes in the bottom of the floor, But it's all part of the adventure, If I wanted to drive a car with air conditioning and stuff, that's not for me,
Good music, a head full of yarns inspired by his Mexican taxi. Al Fowle's life is written on the highways and byways of Arizona. Behind the wheel of his 1954 Chevrolet Bel Air, Al is a happy man.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love this car. I can't stop anywhere without somebody saying, wow, man, that's a cool car. I love it. The trunk popped open. It's got a bad lock. I gotta close it again.
Is 20 miles away. I bet you're gonna be surprised when I walk in. Right now he's frying eggs and
well, you see, none of these gauges work, on the thing, and they didn't when I got it. And to kind of replace them all is a little expensive and it's a real pain to do. So, I don't know, if I need to know how fast it is, 50. I don't even know if I'm the one who owns the car. I think I'm just a passenger for a while.
20 miles away.
God bless America.
Al's car is the faithful companion of every moment of his life. Something like a good old friend who every now and then gives you a hard time.
Oh, well, you're gonna blow a tire, you're gonna blow a tire. Ain't the first one I changed. Sure as hell ain't gonna be the last. Ugh. Just gotta get into Tucson and get another one now.
Have you heard about Davey? He got locked up yesterday for the failure to pay his child support. And all us guys laughed and thought it was just so funny. His wife left in such a hurry, she never even stopped to ask for money. She never even called just once to tell him where her and Junior was. So last Friday night, driving back to his lonely home, he started thinking, I'm not gonna leave Arizona, I don't think. I mean, I wanna travel, you know, I'd like to see the whole rest of the world, really, to tell you the truth. And I'm gonna try to see as much of it as I can. I mean, part of the biggest thing about being a musician is it can be a tool for that. You know, maybe you ain't gonna make any money there, but you're gonna get to see some places, you know? And it's a vehicle like that, you know? It can be, if you're, you know, if that's your intention, you know? But I always wanna stay here, you know? I got a nice little circuit I do, you know, around the state, different gigs I've been doing for some years, different towns I've been playing for a long time, see old friends when I play there, and it's nice. I never wanna lose that. He had a little yard sale, baby clothes and dishes for sale. A little yard sale, baby clothes and dishes for sale. Little yard sale, baby clothes and dishes for sale.
Wyoming is a land where people still get around on horseback. A land of breathtaking landscapes crossed by the Rocky Mountains that peak at over 4,000 meters. It is the least populated of the United States. Here, not far from Yellowstone National Park, Richard Fox has his ranch.
It's the end of May, and normally at this time of year, the grass is growing and all of the trees have leaves. But this year, as you can see, it's still snowing at this time of year. So we're facing some challenges feeding our horses and our cattle, and we live by nature's rules here.
Richard Fox runs his family ranch, perched at an altitude of 2,300 meters and isolated from the rest of the world. In this region, the temperature can sometimes drop to minus 30 or 40 degrees Celsius. Wyoming is a wild country, land of wolves, grizzlies, beavers, and the imposing elk. This morning, Richard is riding along the edge of the forest. He's tracked down a stray colt that ran off from the herd.
Easy. 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 That's a good boy. That's a good boy.
From the day I was born, I've been around horses. You know, I started riding in my father's arms when I was 6 weeks old. So really, they're like family members to me. And my whole family feels the same way. We treat them very gently and have a lot of respect for horses. Horses are wonderful because you can go so many places with them. You know, it's a little bit like a dog, except you can also ride them. The horses and the cattle, I love the animals. You always feel at peace when you're around them. They're very pure animals. You can go any direction on the horses, and we're very lucky because we're in the middle of the wilderness, so we don't have any highways, we don't have fences, that block us off, so we can go any direction, both physically and I think mentally, because we have these wide open spaces.
When the sun sets, the mountains around the Bitterroot Ranch echo with a particular sound that goes way back to Richard's childhood. Once spring is well underway, they let the horses loose at sunset so they can spend the nights roaming freely in the mountains.
I was born and raised in Wyoming, and I spent my whole childhood growing up here. And then I went away for university, so I saw some other parts of the country, and I experienced, different lifestyles, and realized how wonderful my lifestyle here in Wyoming is. And I think that's part of the reason that I love it so much. I've seen other things, and I've seen how lucky I am and my family is to be here. But I was lucky because I was born into this lifestyle. So I think many people have to search, for something they love and, for a passion in life. And for me, it was just natural.
After a long, hard winter, the spring thaw has begun. The ranch is coming back to life. Today, Richard's entire family is pitching in with the work. They have to drive a part of the herd up to the grazing lands recently freed from the snow. These vast expanses they ride over, these plains, hills, and mountains, all this is their home, and they protect it.
We do things the way they've been done in the West for over 100 years. We rely on the natural world, the grass growing and the cattle having their calves, just like the cowboys did in the old days. This is not a very decorative saddle. This is a real cowboy saddle for work. It's designed to sit in for a lot of hours. You're comfortable in this saddle all day. It's like my office chair that I sit in every day. As long as it's looked after and, I keep loving it, it should last for, generations. Actually, my parents got this saddle for me when I graduated from high school. So I've had it for many, many years. And maybe, I don't know, I'll give it to my son when he graduates from high school. I like to come up just by myself to get away from it all and see what's going on up here. It's very peaceful, it's very nice companionship with the horses. You always have to pay attention to what the horse is doing, and so they keep you thinking. You can't fall asleep, and I can't drift off and think about other things. I have to focus on the horse and on our relationship. It's a little bit like a dance, and you have to pay attention to it, or you'll step on your partner's toes, or they'll step on yours. I came up here this morning to see if we can bring our cattle up into the mountains. Each summer we bring them up, high into the mountains for the grass. And I've discovered that there's a lot of snow up here. So it's too early. We aren't going to be able to bring our cattle up yet. But frankly, it's also kind of a nice trip to see, just me with the two horses, and we get away from it all. And we can explore in the mountains. It's very peaceful. I haven't found anywhere yet that's better than this.
Richard makes a stop on the banks of this river. He still has half a day of riding to get back to the ranch. He'll spend the night in this 100-year-old cabin that has offered shelter to so many cowboys before him. Isolated, but not alone. He has the company of his horses, as well as the spirit of all those who once nourished the same dreams.
Many ranches in the West are getting subdivided, so they're being sold for people to have small houses in this beautiful countryside. But of course, as more people have their small homes in paradise, it's no longer paradise. And so I think for my whole family, it's very important that we're keeping our ranch the way that it has been. It's a hard way to make a living, and it would be easy to, sell the ranch and subdivide it. But there are a lot of ranchers that hold on to the land. Even though it's a tough lifestyle, it's a good lifestyle, and they have a lot of love for what they're doing and for the open land and for the environment. I hope people get a chance to visit wilderness somewhere in the world just to see what it's like. And I think that, that's how everyone used to live. So it's kind of part of us, and it's important to, still see it.
At dawn, Richard will get back on the trail to the ranch. In a few days, the snow will be all gone. That's when they'll drive the cattle up to the summer pastures. In the local Indian language, Utah means people of the mountains. This is the breathtaking realm of towering stone cathedrals sculpted by the wind and rain. Time and erosion have carved out immense canyons. Venturing into the heart of Utah means discovering one of nature's masterpieces. Here, at the foot of these abrupt rock walls, is where the lovers of wide open spaces meet. Men and women who live near these cliffs that they've managed to tame in order to satisfy their thirst for the extreme.
It's like a specific moment where you have to focus and do everything the best you can. And, you know, the only person it really matters to is you, because you're the one there, you're the one on the line. It feels really honest or like real to have experiences like that, because you're gonna try to do the best you can because you sort of have to. Well, I've been climbing for 20 years, and you know, at this point I couldn't really not climb in my life. It's just, you know, it's like eating or walking. I mean, I will always climb. I don't know. I don't know why I like that so much. I just do. I just really like it. What makes sense is being here. And, you know, you're on a cliff and there's gravity and, you know, and you have your equipment and you know what to do and you're going to do the best you can because you want to have a good time and be able to do it again later. And it's very natural. So to me, that makes sense. And I like to live like that.
Steph Davis is one of the world's most respected woman climbers. She has climbed and opened difficult trails all over the globe: Pakistan, Europe, North and South America. Steph Davis could have had a brilliant career as a pianist or devoted herself to writing and literature. But one day she discovered rock climbing, the contact with the stone, and this wild nature that few men or women manage to master. When she arrived here in Moab, Utah, Steph Davis decided to live as simply as possible, in her trailer, not far from the rock walls. And she lived like that for 7 years.
I love this place where there's all these canyons and all this, there's a lot of shape and there's like a lot of volume in this landscape. And then you never feel like you're just out exposed because there's so much stuff surrounding you, but then it's far away, so you don't feel like squeezed in like some tight valley. So it's just this really nice combination of feeling kind of like there's things surrounding you, but you always feel like you're up on top of places, and it just feels really good here. You know, as the years went by, I went like a lot of places in the world, and this is just my favorite place. Like if I had to stay in Moab and never ever leave this area for the rest of my life, I would be totally happy because there's just everything to do here.
Now Steph lives with her boyfriend, Mario, who's also a lover of the extreme and strong sensations. Today they're climbing ancient art, a spire in the middle of Fisher Towers, one of Utah's most spectacular landscapes.
Just think of your position and everything. Make sure it's all good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna right now.
These two climbers, used to high mountains, complete the ascension in under an hour. Here, Steph and Mario are on the summit of ancient art, perched on a narrow platform barely large enough to stand on.
Have a good one, babe.
Me too. Okay,
See ya.
2, 1.
Steph's free fall down the cliff face has gone off without a hitch. This sport, base jumping, gives an incredible rush of adrenaline. But for Mario, it's more of a problem because the wind has come up. Plus, he's no longer attached by his harness, and his balance is tricky. Under these conditions, you have to be patient. Now the wind has dropped, and Mario is getting ready to take the great leap. But first, he has to get rid of the rope they use to make the climb. The rope has gotten wedged in, and he has to free it with his foot.
Yeah, baby. Here we go. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. That's okay.
Good job. That was a nice one.
It's one of those magical places, and it's close to our hometown. It's like 20 miles away, 25 miles away. We can come here like every day if we want to, so we don't have to travel across the world. So, and people cross the world to come here. So when you're actually here and it's your backyard, I feel very, very lucky. You know, I'm more of a jumper, she's more of a climber. So she gets me up and, I get her down. So we have this little team thing going, which is pretty nice. So when you actually have somebody that shares the same passion and you're actually in love with, it makes everything just that much more intense because you can share all these very strong, feelings and moments with somebody you love. It's nice, very nice. So yeah, in the thunderstorms, they bring all the air up, and then it just takes air in from different sides.
Mario is a climber, but he's also been an airplane pilot and skydiving instructor for years. He's one of the trailblazers of base jumping as well. The passion they both have for wide open spaces and pushing their limits quite naturally led Steph and Mario to share the call of the void.
Mario and I actually met in this plane. And I really like it when he's flying. And then he knows so much, and I really trust his decisions. And it's just nice when he's flying.
If you're in a thunderstorm, it's bad weather, so what you need to do is make sure where they are before you actually take off, and basically avoid them. But it does make things a little more tricky, but at the same time, these days we'll have the most beautiful skies because the clouds are bursting, and there's a way to be safe as long as you respect the environment and you know what's coming.
Their little plane is weaving between the storms and downpours. Mario is still hesitating about opening the hatch. Steph is ready to go.
Skydive. How about is 1 minute from dropping skydivers over Canyonland? 1 minute.
And door, 0.5 miles. Have a good jump.
For this jump, Steph has donned her wingsuit, especially designed to slide through the air. But man's oldest dream, flying, is not available to just anyone. In the USA, you have to complete 500 jumps before you can dive with a wingsuit. This suit allows Steph to fly much longer in free fall than with the standard equipment. It's an aerial roller coaster that lasts only about 1 minute before opening her parachute.
It kind of feels like being a bird when you have a wingsuit because you can go where you want. You can steer it. You can pop up or dive down. You can, spin around in circles. It's a really cool feeling, but then at the same time, you're also thinking a lot because you have instruments like the altimeter, and you have to think about where you're going to come to land. And so it's like, on the one hand, it's this really like, ooh, I'm a bird. And then on the other hand, you're like, what's my altitude? It's just just an amazing thing that you could do that, You could be like a bird up there. It's kind of amazing that we have that chance. when I started to do meditation, for me, it's just kind of the same thing as running. Like to have like the empty mind state, which is really good. And then you feel good. And then it helps train your mind to do that when you are like doing a base jump or doing a hard climb or free soloing or skydiving or something. Because anything you practice, you can do it better. So if you practice that mind state in safe environments, it's easy to take it into the risky ones.
Hey, Steph, how's it going?
Hi, Slack. Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
Steph.
sweetie. Hi. Hi.
Happy dog.
Hi. Good boy. Is it windy?
Yeah, it's been a little breezy up here, but not too bad.
Is the line good?
Oh, it's perfect.
Looks nice.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
that's super nice, Larry.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Wow, but it's really wet. Is the line wet?
No, it's actually after the sun and all the wind, it's dried out and it's perfect.
Do you know how far down it is?
It's probably about 100 feet down.
Okay.
Larry Harp is an old friend of Steph and Mario. He's a reference in this very spectacular discipline, slacklining. He also has been around the world to fulfill his passion for climbing, which he's been practicing for years. Larry is willing to go to great lengths for such a moment. It took him 2 days of hard work to set up the line. You don't practice this extreme sport on a tight cable, like a tightrope walker with his balancing pole. Here, Larry has to master the stretch and bounce of the narrow strip of webbing as he walks the fine line between vertigo and perfect balance.
Nice.
Thanks.
Good job.
Ooh, that was fun. I really enjoy the balance of being able to control not only your physical and your mental aspect of walking a line. I enjoy being up really high. I've been a climber for 20 years, so highlining or slacklining up high is basically just an extension of that. One thing you try to do is empty your mind of anything. It's kind of like meditation, so if you're thinking about a bunch of things while you're walking, it kind of confuses you and it might make you stumble or fall. Whew, that was fun. It's always gets the heart rate up a little bit there. For me, highlining is all about the view, and it's not just being up high. It's being in a very scenic place, being out with nature, and just enjoying the landscape, and everything encompasses the experience that you're looking for.
Somewhere on Earth is headed for New Mexico, the 5th largest state of the USA. With barely 1% of the population, it is one of the country's most sparsely populated regions. Situated between Texas and Arizona, New Mexico is a wide open land of desert and mountain. Sarah grew up in Taos on the banks of the legendary Rio Grande. She is a devoted fan of this river, where she spends most of her time on her favorite activity, whitewater kayaking. She lives the free and simple existence of those who have found their way in life. James lives on the cusp of speed, risk, and fear. Tearing along at over 80 kilometers an hour, he's in search of the perfect balance between adrenaline and harmony. For him, skateboarding is more than an extreme sport. It is an art in itself. 10 years ago, Christy returned here to the ancestral Apache lands in the southern part of the state in search of her identity. Now she is undertaking a pilgrimage to the heart of the Indian world, and thus retracing her own history.
You know, you can look here and say, bugs, dirt, dry, or you can look here and say, wow, vast, open, wild. So I think you have to have something inside of you that's going to respond as well. And I think that's why the story of being a Native American descendant is so important, is having that blood allows that response.
Southern New Mexico was Apache territory. Christy Moya and Joe Science are Native American descendants. Their ancestors belonged to the Chiricahua tribe. Roaming this vast, wild region together has been a way for Christy and Joe to commune with the spirit of the Apache people that continues to haunt these mountains. The Apache culture in New Mexico was nearly wiped out during the conquest of the West. Now the Indians live on reservations. But for Christy and Joe, their freedom is too precious for them to live on the lands handed back by the U.S. government. About 10 years ago, Christy happened to find out that she is a mestiza, a mixed-blood descendant of Spanish and Apache origin. This discovery changed her life.
My mother died when I was 2, and my descendancy comes from my maternal line. And my father hid her story and also hid the fact that I still had family on my mother's side. I had 3 aunts and a grandmother and a grandfather, and until he died, I had no idea. One day, I got a phone call from my brother about saying, Christy, are you sitting down? We've gotten a call from a radio program that says that our Auntie Connie has found us. She came on the radio and introduced herself. And it was a little bit difficult to go through that on national radio. So they picked us all up by limousine and helicopters and brought us all to San Francisco, and we had a big family reunion, and it was very moving.
Before she learned of her family history and rediscovered her Native American roots, Christy was a graphic designer. She led a comfortable life by the Pacific Ocean in Northern California, where she raised her 2 daughters. Then she decided to turn over a new leaf and follow her instinct. She came to settle on these vast, wide-open spaces to live out her Apache identity that had been hidden from her for so long. Now, little by little, Christy is picking up the threads of her long-buried heritage.
It is not unusual for Native American descendants to not know they descend from Native blood. And a lot of that has to do with shame, in that, you know, it was still in the 1940s where there were signs on public buildings, no Indians, no dogs.
At the Padilla Ranch, Joe is getting the horses ready for his trip with Christy. They're about to undertake a pilgrimage to the heart of the ancestral Apache land.
We can make it's like a southwestern sandwich. So when you're on the trail, all you have to do is eat it.
That was always one of the complaints of the military when they started chasing Apaches in here. It was just how rough the country was. But Apaches were used to it. They dealt with it. They accommodated for it because we believe that this country was made specifically for us.
Back in California, 1,500 kilometers away, one of Christy's daughters is about to give birth to a little Apache girl. So Christy is about to become a grandmother. She wants to celebrate the event at Warm Spring, a traditional site sacred for all Apaches. There's only one trail that leads there. Joe and Christy will have to do a 4-hour drive across the desert, then 2 days on horseback.
I'm used to feeling everything how it feels on the horse and the saddle, so if I have to saddle in the dark, I can do it. You never know in the wilderness. Half a horse? No, not really, but I have a good idea of what's good for them and what they may need, because I like what I do, so I have to try to keep my horses in good shape. And
yes, he's half a horse. You are. Our wild Indian ponies, they were part of us. Like you were talking with Joe, is he part Indian? Is he part horse? Are they part Indian? Maybe so. It's not often we get to have an experience where the ground itself, the water, the mountains, everything can just feel a part of your body. It isn't even about, you know, owning or controlling or, you know, fencing. It's just the fact that this wild terroir, this wild land, this wild soil has the bones of our ancestors. Joe is, in Apache family style, my brother. And so what he did was what he does best, and that is he showed me Apache culture and history through land. And so we traveled, I think it was about 2 years together off and on, throughout Apache territory, which is our territory, which is southern New Mexico, all the way down to Chihuahua City in Mexico, along the mountains back up. And so I've seen, you know, everything where we used to roam and we used to live.
Joe's family, proud of its heritage, gave him a very traditional upbringing. His Indian name is Mbatsu, the wolf. He has become Christie's best friend. Together, they are traveling back in time through their common heritage, back to the origin of their now vanished world.
Growing up, my family taught us about the idea of being a person in nature, not to use tools, not to use vehicles and cars and trucks and things everywhere. There's places that should be left just like they are. We should not leave trash, we should not leave things behind. If anything, only our footprints and our hoof prints. All our ancestors and all our elders have always told us to protect what we have, that it is our duty and our responsibility to do that.
Nothing like the wilderness. Quiet, vast. We're just a little tiny piece of a great big picture. This is our land. It's in my bones, it's in my blood. It's Apache land.
These arid lands of New Mexico seem to jealously guard their secrets. And yet they say that the mother of all Apaches was born from the clear water of a spring. This evening, Christy and Joe are only a few hours away from that sacred stream.
Moments like this in the morning when the day is starting out, it's a good time to pray. The day is changing. It's that change that I like. Last night was nice. Always with the coyotes singing. It's nice to know that animals are around. So if you see tracks, if you hear them, the birds singing, that's why I'm out here.
Wait, did you hear rustling last night? I thought I heard something really early this morning, but it didn't sound big. I think there's a bear in your belly.
Yeah, it's a hungry bear.
Uh-huh.
But I gotta fight it.
Warm Spring, the Apache's sacred source, flows from the base of these hills. Joe knows the spot very well and comes here often to commune with the spirits of his people. This is the mythical wellspring that is at the heart of Apache spirituality.
This spring is known as a sacred site to Apaches, especially the Chiricahuas. We believe that the Chiricahuas, this is one of the places where they emerged onto the earth when we were created and put upon this earth to live here. Yusen, Okka, Ai Hanataje. Hayago, Onait Hayu, Adag, Hayago, Onait Hayu, Adag, Oka, Ai Hanadaje, Hayago, Onait Hayu. Apache people are spiritual people by nature. Everything that we do involves prayer, involves acknowledging the elements, the air, the water, the land. And so whenever we go somewhere that's special, we want to approach it in the proper way. And one of those ways is to pray and offer prayers to the place that we're at. And that's always something that is done by Apache people, and especially in a place like this.
Hey, way, Ohio. Hey, way, Ohio. Hey, way, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, way, oh. Today, a new life in my family came into being. My newest granddaughter was born early this morning. And she's an extension of this place. She's another Apache descendant. And I intend to make sure she knows that and to bring her here. You know, let her play in the water as a baby and then tell her the stories as she grows up, so she knows where she came from. And so she always feels like she has a home.
Perhaps someday in the future, a woman of Apache descent will also make the pilgrimage to this sacred spring. She will recall that long ago, her grandmother, who led an exceptional life, came to chant here on the day she was born. The Rio Grande exerts a fascination both on nature lovers and thrill seekers. It seems like this legendary river attracts free spirits, sports freaks, and oddballs from all over the country. They've been waiting months for this moment. The autumn rains that poured down on the Colorado mountains and the New Mexican mesas have at last swollen the waters of the Rio Grande. Today, the river has the fury of a mountain torrent. This little community of kayakers can kick off the season. The region around Taos in the northern part of the state is a paradise for them. This is where Sarah von Gilder-Rain lives. Aaron is Sarah's husband. It was kayaking that brought them together several years ago. Ever since, they've shared the same passion for extreme sports and a special affection for the Rio Grande.
So this is it, Sarah.
Yeah, okay.
It's right here. We're gonna just take the boats one at a time. We're gonna lower them off right here, and then we'll have both our boats below the first cliff.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yep.
Super.
Let's do it.
Super duper. It's a little bit tricky, but sometimes access is difficult. Sometimes you have to walk out because the water's too high or too low, or there's a log, or it's dark. So sometimes we have to walk out of the cliffs of the gorges. Today we're walking in.
Okay, Aaron, I'm ready for the kayak. When access is difficult, there's going to be no one there. A lot of times, the access is the adventure.
Yeah, tough to get down to the river today. It's a steep, slippery basalt rock and a long descent. But the reality is we save a lot of flat water and we get to just run the rapid parts of the river today. So are we going down there or what? Yeah, through the river.
It appears to look easy a lot of times. People often think that they can do something because we make it look so easy. which is great because I like to be inspirational and I want to be inspirational. So to be able to inspire people to have that chance to go into a kayak and to experience some passageway. But often people think that it's a lot easier than it really is.
Whitewater kayaking is a dangerous sport. The river has its quirks, and it's best to check out the tricky spots beforehand, like a rally driver.
It's kind of a kayak saying that when you scout, the time that you look at the scary part is the time that you're going to be in the scary part. Getting worked, they say. I don't want to get worked.
Hannah, Aaron and Sarah's 10-year-old daughter, has been swimming in the Rio Grande since she was a baby. This little tribe earns its living thanks to their enthusiasm for kayaking. Sarah is an instructor, and once a year, when the river here is too low, the family takes off to Patagonia for 6 months during the summer in the Southern Hemisphere, where they train young Chilean kayakers.
So we're coming up to a spot where I was in a kayak and Hannah's due date was 2 weeks before and she still hadn't arrived, and so I went into a kayak and we were paddling around with very good friends all around, and Hannah decided to announce her arrival. I went into labor here. And now my daughter's here, getting to practice the same. It's a pretty special day. The river is a lot like a being. It has so much personality. It fluctuates. It's loud. It's quiet. It gets very high, it gets very low. It's like a living being. And it's so big because it's all around the world. There's rivers everywhere. And it gives you a good purpose in life to be able to explore rivers of the world.
Sarah goes to meet her friend Chris at the first light of dawn. He's a ULM pilot, and this morning they're going to treat themselves to a bird's-eye view of the canyons of the Rio Grande. The region around Taos acts like a magnet on lovers of wide-open spaces. The hardy souls who have settled here are in contact with nature all year round. Not only is it a favorite spot for kayaking, it's also one of the best places in the country for skiing.
Last year, I had a dream where I flew out to the gorge. I was hovering over the gorge and I turned back around and I flew back and it was sunrise. And so I told Chris, I specifically called him and said, Chris, I had this dream because I saw him the following day flying up over the gorge, and I realized that he was living my dream, literally.
People who know the river well agree that the stretch near Taos is the most spectacular. Dozens of westerns have been shot in this majestic landscape. The Rio Grande has become an archetype, familiar to all Americans. It's over 3,000 kilometers long, and its lower part forms a natural boundary between the United States and Mexico.
It's so quiet up there too. Just the way that the ULM flies, it's very peaceful. You go up there, the air's warmer actually, and you get up there and it's very tranquil, wonderful. It's majestic. Taos, land of enchantment.
For millions of years, the canyons of the Rio Grande have been the battlegrounds of a relentless combat between water and stone. Sarah has found her equilibrium in this struggle and the power of the water. Before each descent, she prepares to give her all to become one with the river. This is her way of living in harmony with a raw, tumultuous realm forever in movement. This is the moment of truth. Sarah takes the plunge and on her own braves the whims of the Rio Grande.
The beauty of kayaking is that there's wave trains. Life is a wave train. There's peaks, there's valleys, sometimes you see the end and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you get scared and sometimes it builds your confidence. And you never know what's around the corner. Even on rivers that you've been on, because the river changes. With nature surrounding me and me in my kayak, I love the idea of floating on top of the water because I know there's a world below me and a world above me, and I'm right on that edge. I'm right on that line. For me, I go down the river and it removes all the problems of everything. And it makes me realize that the small things, the big things, nothing really matters a whole lot. You just have to be able to take it for what it is.
James West is from another planet. Riding his skateboard, he's playing with existence, flirting with the curves, and day after day he traces arabesques on the roads of New Mexico. This is no longer a sport for him, but more a wink to the plodding earthlings. On his board, James has attained the pitch-perfect balance of an equilibrist or trapeze artist.
Longboarding is really great because it's given me an opportunity to really connect with nature. They both go together really well because a lot of the roads we want to skate, the fast, big, technical roads, are all roads going up to the top of mountain peaks.
James is right at home on these mountain roads that snake down to the vast plains. He dreams of a road, an endless road, that would carry him to the ends of the earth. He slips along the ribbon of asphalt and for a moment transforms it into an invisible, fleeting work of art.
You're just on that fine line of the wheels gripping and the wheels sliding, and you just keep them gripping for just a moment, and right when they feel like they're gonna slide, you let them just a little bit and then bounce back off of them. And it's an amazing feeling. That's where the art part of skateboarding comes in. At a certain point, you don't want to skate a small hill. You want to skate a big, giant, fast mountain with crazy 180-degree turns and sharp corners and really high speeds. And at the same time, these mountain roads don't have many people on them, and they're absolutely beautiful.
James lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico's largest city. Once a year, thousands of flying enthusiasts converge here from all over the planet. The Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is the largest gathering of hot air balloons in the world. Every morning, 500 balloons light up the sky of New Mexico, and 3,000 eager beavers are busy on the ground. One of them is James, the dreamer.
Everyone in Albuquerque, in all of New Mexico, knows about the Balloon Fiesta. It's a fun event to go to. And sometimes we'll show up in the morning and we'll help some of the balloonists down. And it's always a really fun experience. You always meet some really funny and interesting people. Yeah, I'm very proud of my little city.
If there were a road from heaven down to Albuquerque, James would be the first to barrel down it at top speed. He could have been a tightrope walker, but he chose to push his limits in the purity of speed. His quest for freedom is a far cry from the constraints imposed by a sport. Longboarding is simply an extension of his being.
I could consider it an art. Sometimes it'll look like dancing. Someone's just coming down the hill with so much style that it looks like he's dancing, and then it's an art for sure, because it's hard, and it also takes style to be good.
Hidden away in the mountains of New Mexico are some very tempting roads. James searches them out and breathes new meaning into them. In his world, these roads are not exclusively for cars. Extreme skateboarding is barely tolerated in the United States. James is an asphalt maverick, and in the eyes of the local sheriffs, an outlaw.
Whenever you're at your usual hills, you know how to skate them, and after a while it becomes second nature, and it may not be as fun to skate after that. And then you come to a new hill and it scares you again. You get a big rush of adrenaline, and I like new roads.
James has recently spotted a mountain pass at an elevation of 2,000 meters in the north of the Chihuahua Desert.
Yeah, the turn over there is actually, it's pretty mellow. It looks really sharp. It's 180 degrees, but if you carve off a little bit of speed, it's not all that fast. It looks fast. I think that's one of the harder corners, is that it's a left-right, too. It's a real steep chicane. It's two 90s right on top of each other.
Right.
The king of sports in Albuquerque is the rodeo, an art just as risky as that of James. He has been familiar with horses and corrals ever since his childhood, but he has never yet dared take on a bull.
Yeah.
So you can just stand that there,
right there,
and just kind of put your arm like this in case the bull's back's inside the chute. You can just like hold me.
Hold you, yeah. Keep you from moving.
Today, the skateboarder is with his friend Jonathan, a young Mexican who's training for an upcoming rodeo.
Hello. ¿Estás ranado, verdad? Álvaro. No. Sí, bueno, sí, todo bien.
That was messed up. That's scary. I was holding you all right?
Yeah.
All right.
Kinda too explosive, you know, like too high. Like I was trying to stay as much as I could, but it's just practice. So it's better like trying to not get hurt and be healthy for the next rodeo.
Bull riding as a whole has become a lot more an extreme sport.
So you're getting a lot of people that are involved that are kind of like skateboarders, those type of things that like extreme sports. There's still a few of us that it's our roots, you know. We were raised this way. We were raised around cattle and horses and this way of life forever. And it's one of them deals, once it gets in your blood, it's kind of one of them things you stick to. We definitely don't make much money at it, but we like doing it, you know. No, thank you. Same deal like before, like I said, just keep moving towards the front, okay? They're getting you a little bit tipped to the side and you're kind of just clamping. Let loose and get a hold with your feet. Keep chasing your rope, okay? With those spurs, get a hold with them. Squeeze tight and keep moving to the front, all right? Okay, right, good, Keegan, you'll do good. Keep moving. Right, good. More. Move. Right. Keep riding. To the front. Okay. So when he kicks like that, shove your hips into him, right? Then when he comes up, then push. And then shove your hips back into him, okay? You did good. You didn't quit, as long as you try.
I'm gonna try a little one just for fun. See how it goes. Kind of curious, honestly. I guess I should take my phone out of my pocket. They got horns and stuff.
Horns out here, buddy.
What's his name?
Chaos.
Chaos, great. Big guy like that. Fuck. What do I wish for in my life? I don't really want a whole lot out of life. I just want to live in a cabin in the woods next to a huge mountain road, and I just want to skate until I can't skate anymore. And you know, I always want to be learning at the same time, but really I just want to be following my passion for the rest of my life and be able to pursue that and live comfortably. That's all I want.
James, a blacktop acrobat, has found his inner stability on his board. He is a daring dreamer, a young free spirit. He's living life in the fast lane as he tears down the mountains. His soul is inhabited by the folly and happiness of those whose only need is their passion, a passion that fills an entire life. James, at 24, is destined to become a longboard legend. He is one of the best at this new discipline. Endlessly, his life and the road unroll at top speed before his board. Burning deserts and massive mountain ranges, the state of Nevada in the American West is an uncompromising land. In this rugged landscape, men with their original rough-hewn characters live out their purest aspirations. Nevada is the site of the Burning Man Festival, a utopian space of ephemeral creations in the heart of the desert. The cowboy tradition is still alive and well in this state that can seem like a page out of the Old West. While in Las Vegas, the world's most intrepid daredevils vie with the Eagles.
Oh, yeah. I love my job. I love my job.
Like the state itself, with its devil-may-care attitude, the inhabitants of Nevada are free spirits. Matt Schultz is heading up to Black Rock Desert, a 3-hour drive from his place. He lives in Reno, situated in a mountainous region in the northwest of Nevada near California. Matt is totally familiar with this road to Black Rock. He knows it will transport him to another world.
It feels like you're on another planet. This looks like Mars. And in that, there's this wonderful beauty. You can see the mountains and the way the earth was formed. And you can see the way the wind moves, the way it changes the soil. And so most of us see the ocean and the trees and the animals and the mountains as beauty. And I see the nothing as beauty here. It inspires me. And yeah, it's such a weird, amazing land.
Black Rock is not your ordinary desert. In this season, it's empty and barren like any other desert. But for 1 week a year, at the end of August, a huge crowd gathers here for a totally off-the-wall music and arts festival, Burning Man. For several years now, Matt has been creating works of art that he installs and exposes during the event. He often comes back to the site to soak up its particular atmosphere.
This desert is a lot like a blank canvas. It's just waiting for a painting. Yeah, it's hard to see how it doesn't change people's lives. It's as if you could feel the Earth's heart beating, the planet existing. It all started over there. And then just started making big art. It's funny to think that we built these giant art projects like maybe a mile that way, just in the middle. Just built these giant things, and there's nothing here. There's nothing left. It's all completely gone.
And yet, a few months earlier, during the festival, Burning Man is an out-of-the-box event. The first edition, held on a San Francisco beach in 1986, was organized by a group of 35 somewhat utopian friends. 4 years later, the organizers moved the event to Black Rock Desert. Now, over 70,000 people participate. Matt exposed his first work at Burning Man in 2012, a 100-meter-long jetty leading to the wreck of a Spanish galleon beached in the middle of the desert.
That was our first hit. I remember sitting inside of it and watching people come in, and they had this face like we had given them Christmas. Like a little kid when they run downstairs to see the presents under the tree.
Small talk and what?
When you think of the European explorers, they stood at the end of those piers wondering what was on the other end of the world. It was like getting onto a rocket and flying into space. I look like I'm 100 or so. It's kind of, yeah, well, whatever. And some photos. And the captain, who's acquired sunglasses at this point. So right next to Reno every year is a city that appears for a week called Black Rock City, and it's the home of Burning Man. This city is built around the art. It's not the art that's fit into the city. The city is made for the art. The city is the weirdest, strangest, loudest, quietest, most horrible, wonderful place ever made. And it is filled with monsters and assholes and hippies and lovers and musicians and tech giants and old rich bastards and young, poor, wonderful people. And they are all there for a week to be who they want to be.
Every year, the festival concludes with a euphoric ritual of destruction. They burn the huge effigy that is the symbol of Burning Man. All the other works go up in flames as well. Not a trace must remain.
And that's Burning Man. And there's nothing like it anywhere else.
Thanks to Burning Man, the city of Reno has been attracting the most extravagant and offbeat characters from all over the world. As a result, the artistic scene of this small city has been booming. Matt is the director of a creative space here, The Generator.
No. It does get louder. We played it like it's personally, I'm kind of viewing, I think the chaos is a little Yeah, no, I'm down.
Today, they're shooting the latest music video of the group Bazooka Zoo.
It'll be cool to see what they make, and then, you know, it's really rad. This part of the generator is just for people to come in for the day and work on whatever. And this is whatever they're working on. A rad music video for a great band.
What are we doing here?
There are all sorts of projects being realized in this huge hangar. Monumental paintings and sculptures, works in metal, circus acts, performances, and art exhibits.
The Generator is a super community-oriented space to where anybody can really just create stuff. It's a beautiful place to be able to do that. Not many places do that in the world. And we're really thankful to have this kind of spot in Reno and be able to do this in Nevada and kind of have a center point and epicenter for all the arts that are especially going out to Burning Man to come here. It's a blessing. It's really cool.
Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
Matt founded The Generator 2 years ago, and most of Reno's artistic projects gravitate around it.
I would say that he's a potentialist.
Yeah.
He maximizes the potential of himself and the people around him to be able to build what they dream.
Cut. Yeah.
You want to pose for the gun?
Yeah, let's, yeah. All right, so
Safety. Let's try to get children out of the shot.
Right, huh?
Matt is a politically committed artist. He's trying to provoke a public reaction to recent incidents of police violence in the USA. He's asked Michel to help him construct the mock-up of his new piece.
I think a lot of people have a hard time identifying with what it feels like to have the police pull a gun on you, to have the police try to intimidate you because of the color of your skin or because of how much money you have. And you can't do much against the police when the rule of law doesn't apply to them. They break the law too, and they should be equally punished for breaking the law. But if a police officer can freely shoot a homeless man in the back and murder him and not get charges, this is not my worldview.
Matt grew up on the shores of Lake Tahoe, on the other side of the mountains around Reno. He was a solitary child who spent most of his time drawing. After working in advertising and animation in San Francisco, he gave it all up to travel through Asia and Africa. Then he settled in Reno. His father still lives near this lake of his childhood.
It's his first kiss was here.
No, it wasn't the first kiss. It was.
Well, you kissed that dolphin or something.
A dolphin, like a blow-up dolphin.
Maybe it was a fish.
No, I think Dad took me here when I was really little. This was pretty much the first beach I ever came to, and then we kept coming here till I was 15, 16, fairly consistently every summer, like probably every weekend.
Yeah.
For what? 16 years? 17 years.
And it's still our little meeting spot.
Yeah,
to this
is the place that we always come to just hang out, meet, talk, look at girls, throw the frisbee. And like I said, we just come to swim here. My sister and I.
Yeah.
It's like this great place where the whole family would come.
We haven't done this in a while.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know if I can communicate that. Maybe 1 degree Celsius, the water. When I lost my stepdad 2 years ago, I kind of made a note to be better with my family, and I haven't been doing the best of jobs. So it's a chance to be with my family and kind of, be a better son. So, I mean, it's something I don't think a lot of people talk about, but when you do big projects and you pursue your dreams, sometimes you lose track of the people you care about the most. And they're gonna be there, or at least you think they're gonna be there. And so, if you go away for a couple of years, they're not gonna be mad, but then when they die, what do you do? It's the balance. It's that kind of yin and yang. Sometimes the madness of it all. Sometimes all the ideas and the people and the way we all spin about compels me. But Sometimes I get spun too tight and I have to unspin. And so this is my spot where I slow down to stop before I get spun up again. And it's just, this is the only place I've always been. In my 35 years of life, this is the only place that is consistent. It's always like this. And when I fall asleep and I dream about the future, this is here, and it's just like this. And when I think about the past, this is here, and it's just like this. This is the spot that's me. All those other places are places I visit. This is the spot that if I had to say one place, there was one place that described me, this would be it.
Matt had a huge success at the 2014 Burning Man Festival with his piece, Embrace, his latest monumental work.
Embrace was the dream project. Embrace was this monument to love, to affection, to the people we care about, to the people who make us who we are. And we had this ridiculous idea that we wanted to build two people, two giant people, hugging. In November of 2013, we started building. And this took an army of volunteers. We had over 150 separate people work on the project. We worked for about 9 months to build it. And we just started from the top, and we worked our way down. So if we ran out of money, we could stop here. You know, one head was 10 meters tall, just one head. It could fit 20 to 30 people in it. In a head, like right here, there were little people that would walk around and look out the eyes. It was big, it was giant, a bit like a cathedral. But instead of thinking about the power of God, I wanted people to think about how strong they were together. And the whole structure was built to look like it grew there. Like these were giant tree people that twisted out of the ground and grew into these amazing creatures as they slowly hugged. Maybe they had been growing there for 500 years. And in another 500 years, they would finally fully embrace each other. And we lit it on fire. And watched the whole thing burn until there was nothing left. Oh.
Andy Hedges is a musician from Texas. He's 35 and is part of a young generation captivated by the cowboy culture. Now he's touring Nevada, driving on Highway 50, which Life magazine once called the loneliest road in America. Traveling this route, Andy is sure to find the genuine America, the America that he recaptures in his songs.
I love traveling. I love being on the road, and especially in a beautiful place like this in the middle of Nevada, away from the city and these big, wide open spaces. You can really kind of clear your mind out, and it's a great way to get ready for a gig, you know, and think about what you're gonna do. And yeah, I love it. There's something powerful about just letting this all pass by you and thinking about that on your way to play music. And it, I think, makes the performances better, makes the songs that much more powerful.
As he rolls along through Nevada on these long stretches of highway, Andy lets his mind wander, like the herds of wild mustangs galloping free across the Great Plains. The music that Andy likes is inspired by the myth of the cowboys and pioneers who built America. But Andy knows that this traditional way of life is inexorably disappearing, and he's fighting back with his guitar and his songs so that this culture, which is part of this country's history, doesn't fade into oblivion.
I wanted to be a cowboy when I was a kid, but when I was about 14 is when I discovered music and poetry, and that changed everything for me. That became my passion more than anything else, you know.
Sun and Saddle Leather by Charles Badger Clark. I collect these classic cowboy poetry books, and I recite some poems from this book. And a lot of poetry has been set to music over the years, and some of the classic American cowboy songs were originally poems by Charles Badger Clark. It's great stuff. You could almost turn to any page and find something riding. There's some that like the city, grass that's curried smooth and green, theaters and strangling collars, wagon drawn by gasoline. But for me, it's horse and saddle every day without a change, and a desert sun a-blazing on 100 miles of range. Just a-riding, a-riding. Desert rippling in the sun, mountains blue along the skyline. I don't envy anyone when I'm riding.
Middlegate Station is one of the rare inhabited spots along Highway 50. The sign sums it up pretty well. The middle of nowhere, and proud of it.
I have no idea.
In the 1860s, the mail was carried by horseback from the East Coast to the Pacific in 10 days. Middlegate was one of the 160 relay stations of what was called the Pony Express. And this place still feels like something out of the past.
So is the population really 17?
No, it fluctuates.
I was going to ask what happened to the 18th person.
Yeah, no, I had 2 kids, so it went up and then it goes down. We have a lot of old people here.
Yeah. You born and raised here?
Raised, not born.
Yeah.
But you're a singer, right?
Yeah.
They just had a gigantic for our fundraiser. Yeah, it was.
So where do y'all set up and play back?
Oh, they
back
take the
in here?
tables out back there.
Okay, yeah.
My cousin went to Great Basic College there.
It's in places like Middlegate, lost in the heartland of America, that you can still hear authentic Western music.
Short saying this is nice weather.
Yeah.
We got a guy plays here every Saturday night. Why we have prime rib and everything, and I've never seen a guy that knows so much random music. I mean, because he gets so many requests playing in a place like this that he's got to know everything. He was a diehard Grateful Dead and Rolling Stones guy. Beatles was the Beatles, but you know, out here we're like, play some country music. So he had to learn Johnny Cash, stuff he never thought he would in his entire life, just for the people. So it's actually a weird place that you think that music wouldn't exist, but it runs the place.
Right.
Oh man.
I ride with my slicker and I ride all day. Pack along a bottle to pass time away. And a hoop don't diddle dum day, and a leg and a hoop don't diddle dum day.
Oh, I know a girl who's gonna leave her mother, and the devil down in hell wouldn't stir up such another. A hoop don't diddle dum day, and a leg and a hoop don't diddle dum day. Well, she rides on a pinto, works on the drag, her petticoats flapping like a pair of saddlebags.
Nevada is vast and mainly desert. Andy continues his quest in search of the icons of the great American West. His songs that drift across the monotonous plains stretching between the mountain ranges evoke the men who once rode this arid land, driving vast herds of cattle.
Don't diddle dum day, I'm a lay and a hoop don't diddle dum day.
Kelly and Jake embody traditional America. They live on a totally isolated ranch in close touch with nature in its raw state and their livestock. In their own way, they're like Andy, resisting so that the cowboy culture doesn't go the way of the dinosaur.
You know, it makes me feel good to see young folks out here living close to the land and really pursuing this life. You know, I sing these old songs and I'm so interested in this cowboy poetry tradition, and it comes out of this life, and it's really an honor for me to get to know folks who live the life. And you know, my hope in the work that I do and in my art is that people like Jake and Kelly would appreciate it and feel honored and respected.
Andy has put a traditional poem to music, the Cowboy Blues, It's his latest composition, and he's going to try it out in front of his friends.
I've always loved the poem because it's just so perfectly kind of tells the story of how people are enamored with the cowboy life and culture, but oftentimes they have a romantic view of it that has little to do with reality. And it's just a really fun story, and there you have it, you know, Chuck Wagon Blues.
Gila monster and a rattlesnake for my pet. And I wanted to eat live scorpions and watch the tender feet sweat. And I wanted to die with my boots on whenever they brought me the news. And I wanted to be a great hero, and now I'm sick with the Chuck Wagon Blues.
Being a cowboy means making sacrifices. Kelly and Jake gave up everything to live in this wild land. They even decided not to have children in order to give all their attention to their livestock. There are not many as impassioned as they are around to carry on the tradition.
At this place, we do everything horseback. It's easier on the cattle. The objective is the lowest stress possible way to raise these animals in a manner befitting to them. We take pride in the horses that we make, in the cattle that we raise, and the horses that we use to raise the cattle. It's a full circle process.
The Star, a good hour's drive away, is the closest bar to Kelly and Jake's ranch. It's an institution in the region, and all the local cowboys gather here to enjoy a drink or two and listen to some music, their music.
One of these days gonna wake up crazy and pack my bags and leave my baby. It ain't nobody's business but my own. Well, it ain't nobody's dirty business. How my baby treats me, it ain't nobody's business but my own.
One of the reasons I love to play music is because I love to travel, and the wonderful folks I get to meet, and just the joy of sharing the music with folks who appreciate it. So, you know, I think anybody that picks up a guitar, that's kind of what they're hoping for.
Thank you.
Cowboys have fired people's imaginations the world over through westerns. Hollywood made them heroes. Andy never gets tired of singing their story, as if it were a way to keep the heart of Nevada alive and beating.
I think that'll be a good angle here. Get a little bit closer too. Oh, no, actually, we're good. This is good.
There are some people's dreams that are a bit eccentric, and then there are others that are totally off the wall. Flying like an eagle through the canyons of Nevada, for example.
All right, Ace 2, let's get close to the rocks. All right. Let's have some fun here in these rocks here. Roger.
Of course, there's no more than a handful that make that dream come true. Only a few men, like Tex and Kyle, are capable of playing this kind of game.
How cool is that? Oh, yeah!
We have more hours in these types of airplanes than probably anyone in the world. So to us, they feel like an extension of our body. You know that sensation when you lose your stomach on a roller coaster, you know, you get that sensation of the stomach coming up. My body is actually immune to that now. I can't feel that sensation anymore. So my body is as accustomed to being upside down as right side up, so it doesn't really react in that way. So I don't think fear is an emotion I feel that much anymore. But I mean, I've done a lot of extreme things for a lot of years. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, so it takes a lot to get my pulse going these days.
Las Vegas International Airport, 8 a.m. The entire crew is out on the tarmac to prepare the aircraft for the day's flights with tender, loving care. This airline is nothing like other companies. It's specialized in aerobatics. Tex Coe heads this gang of daredevils. For 11 years, he was part of the Air Force's elite corps of fighter pilots. Kyle Naper, the company's newest recruit, is his most talented pupil.
This airplane can roll at 420 degrees per second, so that's more than a rotation per second. Makes it pretty impressive and definitely eye-watering when you're in the cockpit experiencing that. And then this is a huge rudder for the size of the airplane. You can see that this gives you a lot of ability to yaw the aircraft to make it uncoordinated, so you can make it flip end over end. This rudder allows you to do that. So that's kind of what you got. It's for a pilot, it's about a dream come true. I don't know, you got anything to add, Kyle? What do you think about the extra 330 versus what you flew in your earlier days?
Oh, it's a pretty impressive aircraft as far as the maneuverability, and you know, most people that fly in this thing, they always say that an airplane shouldn't do these things, but for some reason this thing does, and that's what it's designed to do. So it's a pretty impressive aircraft, and it's a luxury to fly in one, actually.
It's a very expensive toy, yes.
I'm gonna go for it.
Women are pretty hard to G-lock.
This airline is not reserved for extreme pilots. It's also a flying school. All the pilots are instructors as well, and the novices are pretty lucky to be learning with them.
I'm passionate about aviation. It's been really good to me, so I like kind of encouraging the next generation of aviation enthusiasts. So this is an exciting part of my job, not just to share the exciting part of flying, like aerobatics that I love so much, and the dogfighting, but actually, you know, kind of helping people plant that seed of you know, wanting to be pilots themselves.
Who wants to volunteer as the first flight? All right.
Texas Flying School also offers initiation flights in aerobatics for the thrill seekers passing through Vegas. Ray here wants to take to the air for a little rush of adrenaline.
Since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I grew up.
Really?
But yeah, my eyesight wasn't good enough, so I had to do something else. But so this is a life dream come true.
Put this on like a backpack.
Hope I don't have to use it.
If you do have to use it, however, here's the D-ring, okay?
All right.
All you do is grab it and pull straight up front. Not like this, because you spin around, just pull straight out. A lot of people do 2 hands.
Hey, Mr. Tower, this is Ace 1 request. What we'd like to do is have the 826 Kilo Juliet take off simultaneously on the left. Ace 1 will take off on the right, followed by Ace 2.
Ace 1, delay on the runway approved if you need it. Runway 17 right, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 17 right, Ace 1. What's up, fellas? Look on your right side. All right, we'll sneak up on them on the back side. Smoke on, aileron roll. Smoke off.
For Kyle and Tex, aerobatics is their way of defying death, and they do it with a laugh. A dangerous game, but so very exciting.
Aileron roll. Smoke off. I think we found you.
These two pilots have gone way beyond mere flying expertise. They have completely freed themselves of the technical side of piloting, and with each flight they enter into a very special zone, a space of total freedom. No one else can really comprehend what they're experiencing.
Peace sign, or thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
On Sundays, when Tex wants to get away from Las Vegas and out into nature, he doesn't take his car. He flies his family and friends to the border of Arizona, the neighboring state.
Yeah, I've been flying since I was 15 years old. My dad's a pilot, my older brother is a pilot, and he bought a 182 when I was in high school, a Cessna 182. And my mom wanted to learn to fly, and me being a 15-year-old kid said, hey, I'd like to learn to fly too. And I actually learned to fly before I learned to drive, which is kind of funny. So I got my license as soon as I turned 16, which is the youngest age you can actually get your license, and you know, that's kind of how it started.
For Tex, flying is like breathing. Soaring through the air has always been natural for him. Spontaneous and intuitive, his airplanes allow him to get in touch with the elements.
Hey, look, it's a lighthouse. Where? Normal Sunday in the desert Southwest. A little bit of flying, a little bit of boating. What beats that? You know, there's a lot of people that come to Vegas and all they know about are the casinos and all the bright lights, but there's really just some stunning scenery just outside of the city limits. There's so many outdoor adventures you can have if you like to hike, if you like to boat.
You could actually ski and snowboard 30 minutes out of Las Vegas. People don't know that. So you kind of got year-round activities that are pretty unique around this area. It's not a bad life. Ah! Go the other way, that way. Whoa, not too much. Are you trying to kill us?
Tex and Kyle carry on having fun in the canyons of Las Vegas. But they know the rules of the game. There's no room for error.
Back down we go.
All right, here we go.
Starting from now, let's forget all we know. Let's drift along the river flow. Farewell, you big city blue.
I love this route.
And all the ugly faces I knew.
I love my job. I love my job.
That killed my youth. Starting today, let's do it our own way. Let's walk along the bay.
All right, slow down a little bit too.
Bring it back.
Stay low like that. I'm gonna rejoin on you close.
Roger, we'll move out to the left.
Starting tonight, let's dance to the moonlight.
All right, push it up.
Bringing it in.
Let's play a song
I'm off your right side.
Visual.
and pretend we're strong.
All right, climb it up. All right, come on, left.
Left.
Look for any helicopters.
You big
Keeping an
city
eye out.
blue. And all the ugly faces
All right, let's climb it up to 4,000 before we turn back in.
Roger.
Aviation has been a fantastic career for me. I mean, I was kind of headstrong and a little bit rebellious when I was younger, and I felt like the military probably gave me a sense of direction that I would have otherwise lacked. And that's actually been my career for 25 years, and I imagine I'm gonna be flying until they take my license away and tell me I'm too old, which hopefully isn't anytime too soon.
Today, somewhere on Earth is off to discover the Hawaiian Islands in the heart of the North Pacific. An archipelago made up of 8 islands and a string of atolls. No dazzling white sand or barrier reefs, but landscapes in constant flux, sculpted by the whims of the sea, storms, and volcanic eruptions. Hawaii is a living land, a dynamic force. Here, man is dwarfed by nature, whose unbridled force rules supreme. Scott has been living on Kauai for 12 years. He explores the rugged landscape from the Waimea Canyon to the Napali coast. This is one of the cradles of the Hawaiian civilization, home to the island's earliest inhabitants. Oahu is known the world over for its impressive winds and waves. Yuko has found her niche in life here. She's a sailplane pilot, always on the lookout for the slightest breeze to satisfy her passion. Olivier, a French astronomer, spends a good part of his time on the summit of Big Island, the roof of the archipelago. At 4,207 meters, the peak of the dormant volcano Mauna Kea is a window onto the stars where Olivier probes the depths of the universe.
It's a bit like the monasteries of the Middle Ages, because there's a search for knowledge, and we work alone. We're on a modern spiritual quest, the scientific quest.
Kauai is 5 million years old and the oldest of the Hawaiian Islands. Erosion has left its mark, sculpting its dizzying cliffs and plunging canyons. Kauai is the fourth largest island. 80% of its surface is completely virgin territory. They call it the Garden Island. Kauai has no large town. The inhabitants are ardent defenders of their rural way of life. They've even passed a law that no building be erected higher than the coconut trees. Even today, those who live here consider their island as a sacred gift from their ancestors. Scott, a New Yorker, doesn't have Hawaiian blood, but he's a firm believer in this heritage. It wasn't really part of his plans to settle on an island. He came here on vacation and never left. In 1999, he became a guide. He and his friend Don, a helicopter pilot, spend their time searching out abandoned trails used by the early inhabitants of the island some 1,500 years ago.
Smart 5 is approaching Hanalei Ridge for Lumahai Saddle for Wainiha on the reverse, 2000.
That little false summit right there, it looks like it might be kind of difficult to traverse.
Yeah, it would be really difficult. That trail has eroded away with many years. Nobody's ever hiked it in a long time. A lot of Hawaiians like me, I'm a quarter Hawaiian, my dad's half Hawaiian. I get a feeling of a presence of my own ancestors that are still with me when I look at the paths. That I'm a lucky guy that lives on an island in the middle of nowhere. I'm just a really lucky guy, away from a lot of things. It's a lot of challenges for us to fly around the island. And also, you see a lot of things that nobody else gets to see out here. No one.
Okay, so instead of going to Waialeale, why don't we head over to the ridge towards
Yeah, the weather looks good, so we can go ahead and head over Hanalei Valley over to Wainiha.
Look at that, it's going all the way up there to the top.
So here we are at the end of the world, basically. It appears as if we've walked right up to the edge of the earth and then drops off. And there it is, the Pacific Ocean. You've got 2,800 miles to Japan and Asia from here, and not much in between. Islands to the northwest called the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, mainly inhabited by monk seals and seabirds. Not much else, so we're the most isolated landmass in the world, just out here. And when we come out here on the edge of the Nepali coast, it's literally you're walking to the edge of the world. I don't feel isolated here. I feel at home here. It's part of our world, and it's a very special place where we have a lot of clarity, a lot of vision. The Hawaiian people, they say that they call it the piko, which is the navel or the belly button of the world. And so everything that starts here, and then it ripples out into the world.
The ocean off Kauai often gives a magnificent spectacle.
I love being up here on the top. You know, here we are 1,000 meters above the sea, And it gives you this perspective where you can see the whales, you can see their shadows, you can see their water spouts, you can see their fins, their pec fin slaps, or their tails come up. And if you're really lucky, you get to see a full breach where it comes up and then splashes out into the water.
For countless Americans, Hawaii has always been a magical name that stirs the imagination. Jack London was one of those who initiated that legend. The globe-trotting writer, author of White Fang, was fascinated by these islands. In 1907, he left everything behind and set out with a crew on an epic voyage across the Pacific, aboard his sailboat, the Snark. He left San Francisco in April, and it took nearly 2 months to reach the Hawaiian Islands. Upon arriving, he was awestruck. In his words, "For 27 days, we had been on the deserted deep, and it was pretty hard to realize that there was so much life in the world. We were made dizzy by it." And Kauai is the embodiment of that dizziness. The Na Pali coast is made up of 5 valleys protected by an imposing natural palisade. 1,500 years ago, these canyons, carved out of the rock by the wind and rain, were home to a thriving civilization, unlike any other in the islands.
Down here, all these valleys were populated by Hawaiian people in the ancient days. That's why there are ancient trails going in and out of all of these valleys and along the coast. Each watershed or each valley was ruled by a particular chief of that valley, and it was divided into 2 parts. So the part by the ocean was for fishing, and the part towards the upper part of the valley was for farming, and they traded with each other. And you can still see a lot of old rock walls and archaeological ruins down there.
The mist rolls in suddenly, covering the chasms and swallowing up the landmarks. For certain people, this is a sign that the gods are present.
And when the fog comes in, it rolls in very quickly. And if you're out there on the pali or on the walls of the canyon, you won't be able to see anything. You'll get totally shut out, and that could be dangerous.
Even today, Kauai is known throughout the Pacific for its vegetation. Some of its species are found nowhere else on Earth. When the early settlers landed here, they discovered a fertile, generous land. This natural luxuriance is a continuing marvel. The 18th century was the golden age of exploration. Expeditions followed one after another. There was Bougainville, the Frenchman, James Cook, the Englishman, who made the first European contact with the islands when he landed in Hawaii in 1778.
Ancient Hawaiian people lived down here, the Kua'aina, primarily because of the resources that were available in the area. There's springs down there to give fresh water. The river water was very easy to divert to create loi, which is what they use for farming. It's an irrigation system for farming kalo or taro. So they lived back here. Also, it provided protection because if you're deep in a canyon and you have lookouts, there's natural barriers and boundaries. So anybody who was coming in would have to come from only one direction, and it would be very easy to defend. This island of Kauai had 5 times the population that it does now in ancient times. And that means that when we go off the trail from what is now used, we're often we're following in the ancient footsteps of our ancestors, the Hawaiian ancestors, and we're finding many hidden secrets there.
The cliffs, the mist, and the vegetation deepen the mystery of the Na Pali coast. Totally inaccessible in certain spots, the 5 valleys jealously guard their secrets. Unraveling them means taking the pulse of the island.
be out here, it feels alive, and I feel just blessed to be here because not only am I in an incredibly beautiful place, I'm in an incredibly beautiful place that hasn't really been affected by mankind very much. So it's truly nature out here.
It's easy to see how Kauai can cast a spell on travelers. The Hawaiians call this enchantment the mana. It's the breath of the spirits, their life force. And this is what Scott believes he has found here. On Oahu, the third largest Hawaiian island, the essential is invisible to the eye. This land, like all the others, is subject to a huge current of air. All the islands are swept by this wind, tirelessly regenerated by the ocean. The winds from the vast Pacific buffet the landscape, reshaping the contours of each island. There's no barrier reef here, so the swell is free to grow into impressive rollers that then break against the shore. People come from all over the world to challenge these breakers. In certain seasons, they can reach several meters in height. On Oahu, the waves are a land unto their own. "15 years ago, Yuko left everything behind to come live on Oahu. Situated in the heart of the archipelago, Oahu is famous for Honolulu, the capital of the Hawaiian Islands. Yuko settled on the far north coast. Wind and waves, two elements indispensable to her life.
We'll splash also, and then also when they suck out back to the ocean, such an energy is coming here. So my heart is beeping all the time once I saw it. And if I don't see just a beautiful, calm day, it's all right, it's pretty, but the more water is bigger and bigger and then giant, makes more excited because we cannot do anything. They are more powerful than we are. I love surfing and flying because very similarity for we have to know by the weather, what kind of weather we have, and what kind of weather we have. Same as the water and sky is the same things because we have to lead the wind, current, and then everything is always have to think. And I cannot stop thinking, always keep learning to think to have a good time.
The earth and the sky. Yuko has a deep craving for freedom. Here, far from her family, far from her native land, Japan, she has reinvented her life.
magic every day. Especially the winter season, I see the whale from the sky. And also, winter time, I can check the surf. I'm a surfer, and I'm looking for the wave all the time. And definitely, I think you enjoy view from here. Sometimes we see Kauai, different island over there, and totally awesome view. Spectacular. Flying and surfing is very similar, especially in the glider. And we have a great view all the time. But of course I have to look at land. Make sure nobody land. Yes, beautiful. We can be speed up and slow down and pitch up, and then like a surfing, we call it the over the lip. So this is like a surfing. Then I can go really steep turn and like a surfing all the time. So it is similar, and I think that's why mainly I love flying the glider. And no much noise, just wind noise, like a whisper. This is a beautiful toy for me. This is my baby, and also this is my friend and like a family, because without this it's very difficult to enjoy my life. Moment to moment is a change in the wind, and wind sometimes is strong, but suddenly wind is die, and then really different. And I really like that this changes, because changes is always I have to constantly cautious and awake, always know what's going on. I love it.
Yuko is self-taught. She has found fulfillment in her passion for the air that she discovered a few years ago here on Oahu, thanks to some chance encounters. Becoming a pilot and glider instructor has freed her of constraints. Living here means a lot for her. It's an accomplishment. This surfer of the winds always winds up a flight with a visit to the ocean. In Hawaii, all the islanders rise and go to bed with the sun. Every evening, the same ritual takes place. Life comes to a standstill. Every breath is suspended. The islanders pay homage to the grandeur of the Pacific. Yuko has brought a bit of the empire of the rising sun along with her.
Hawaii makes me more opportunities come up open because multicultural, many Asian, and then many people already understand Japanese culture, so I don't have to explain my background. They already ready for accept me, so I can be open for myself to be open to be freedom. Sorry, I should go. This is a really patient moment each time, and I love it. I love jiu-jitsu, surfing, and of course flying. But the more important is that is happening in Hawaii. That makes me self really happiness, so complete. Weather is always like this for the scope in the end of the day or early morning.
Yeah, this is a blessing. It's like liquid sunshine is what we call in Hawaii. It's a blessing. Hawaiians consider this a blessing when there's something of a special occurrence like this, to be blessed with rain.
Every day, Yuko takes fellow pilots up to surf the winds of Hawaii. She has made sharing part of the job. As soon as the sailplane is released, Yuko sets out in search of waves, the passion of all the islanders. It's part of their way of life. Surfing was invented in Hawaii. The oldest known surfboards were found in the tombs of the chiefs. They're thought to date back to the 14th century. When the early explorers first saw surfers, they couldn't believe their eyes. There's even a legend that the islanders were so skilled with their boards that the Europeans thought they were walking on water. In the time of the ancestors, surfing was a social and religious ritual. By braving the ocean, the surfers could prove their worth and climb the ranks of society. They could even become king. This is what surfing means in Hawaii. Yuko, like the others, is waiting to seize her moment of grace. The fleeting instant when she becomes one with the Pacific.
Especially from Asia, yes, it is not easy to do what I do because I move here for surfing mainly. Then I try to think about what job I can do. I creative. I'm not working for somebody else. I'm always create my own job. I like more growing myself to be independence. That's why I needed to live in Hawaii to make myself is very strong female and also strong creature, the human being. So I can be more kindness than just the strengths. I mean, strong woman. I like to have both. So I need to learn that this kind of nature, this nature is always changing every day. I cannot control them. So same as other people, I cannot control other people. So these places, it makes me realize again and again, I cannot control other people as a weather.
Each island has its own world. On Oahu, life unfolds to the rhythm of the wind and waves. $400,000 years ago, the ocean floor broke loose in an upheaval caused by the incredible turmoil in the bowels of the earth. A huge island surged up from the depths of the sea. It's Hawaii, and will give its name to an entire archipelago. Some call it Big Island. This new land is vast, and its volcanoes are enormous. Big Island still evolves according to the whims of the lava flows. The craters are deep chasms that plunge into the depths of the earth. Hidden far beneath the Pacific, the hotspot, as volcanologists call it, creates islands according to its whims. This deep geological phenomenon is the origin of the entire chain of islands. And this is not the end of the story, for in 10,000 or 100,000 years, the hotspot will once again give birth to a new island.
Flying over this island is just spectacular because you can see the lava flows down below, and they seem dynamic even though they're hundreds of years old. You really get a feeling for how the island was formed with layer upon layer upon layer of lava. So that gives the island a very dynamic feeling. The island's really alive.
Olivier is an astronomer. He came here after his studies for on-the-job training and never left. He works in one of the island's most mysterious spots, Mauna Kea, a dormant volcano that rises 4,207 meters above sea level.
When you get to the absolute altitude that the airplane can fly to, those two numbers are the same. So that's what we're approaching right in the middle there. So this is Mauna Kea, the observatories where I work. The one completely on the left there is the Canada, France, Hawaii, where we're observing.
In 1967, some 10 countries pooled their efforts to establish an observatory with the world's most powerful telescopes here on the summit. The extreme altitude and isolation make it a near-perfect site.
Really spectacular. It's such a strange landscape to see man-made objects on, but it makes sense why they were put here.
You really have an impression of isolation. You truly feel far from everything, and in several different ways. In fact, you have the site, which is lost up in the middle of the mountain. There's absolutely nothing around it. And when you look a little further out, you see the Pacific, and you realize that you're on an island that's lost out in the middle of the ocean. So it's truly isolated in all respects. I love this island. I love the quality and pace of life. I love the people. I love the summit of Mauna Kea. It's hard to leave this place, really hard. I feel like the island is part of me, but even more, I feel like I'm part of this island. I really think I've put down roots here.
Olivier, a PhD in astrophysics, has been here since 1997. He was born in Paris, worlds away from the North Pacific. For the past 12 years, he's been exploring all the roads of Big Island. This Frenchie has become a full-fledged Hawaiian biker.
Hawaii doesn't at all fit your typical image of islands in the Pacific, largely on account of the huge volcanoes. You can see for yourself. And also because of the wide open spaces. It's not all about typical postcard cliches of white sandy beaches and palm trees. And what I really like is that even though we're on an island, traveling around here is like visiting other countries. You can visit Switzerland, Ireland, Sweden, wherever you want in 10 to 15 minutes. And that's fantastic.
It's a 2-hour ride up to the top of Mauna Kea. Not only is the mountain quite high, it's also very broad. Anytime he can, Olivier, a true enthusiast, does the trip on his motorcycle. Mauna Kea is a wild, hostile territory. Patches of snow here and there are a reminder that whatever the season, glacial storms can blow up at a moment's notice. At 4,200 meters, the air is thin and poor in oxygen. Just climbing a flight of stairs requires an effort.
Okay, Greg, I made it to the telescope, so...
I think we're ready for dome rotation whenever you are.
Okay. Is it possible to do just deck, or is that too hard in the sense that you have to compute RA and deck coordinates?
That would be fine. You want me to go back north a bit?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. You know, bring the telescope up to Park, to Zenith, or something like that.
I have a somewhat emotional bond with this telescope because I did my thesis on an instrument here, so I came when I was a student. And it's a machine from another era, so you still have a real connection with the machine. Sometimes it's an emotional connection, because you spend entire nights observing and it's frustrating, but when it works, it's such a treat. So yes, this telescope has a very special place in my heart.
Yep, it's coming down, and the dome is turning, so it's perfect.
Okay, do you want the dome to move some more?
Olivier's work days are so many sleepless nights. On Mauna Kea, the setting sun is the last respite before the silence of the night. The clouds conceal the other reality, the one down below. Little by little, the terrestrial world gives way to a world of stars and heavenly bodies. If the world's most powerful telescopes are installed here on the summit of Mauna Kea, it's because the sky is among the purest on Earth. There's less turbulence than elsewhere, and the pure air allows one to probe unexplored regions. Mauna Kea enters into a new dimension. This is a gateway to the depths of space, millions of light years away. Human time doesn't count anymore. Here, the astronomers can witness the birth of our universe. At last, the steel cupolas are stirring. The astronomers in their bubbles become lone explorers, roaming from nebula to galaxy. Every observation begins with entering the coordinates, something like giving the address somewhere in the universe.
So the coordinates are 23 hours, 3 minutes and 15.6 seconds, and deck is +8, 52, 25.2 in 2000 equinox. So if you can point the telescope, I'm ready when you are.
When you're on the summit of Mauna Kea, knowing that this is one of the world's best sites for astronomy, whether you're a student or a driven astronomer, there's really something magical. It's unique, very special. There's also a magical side concerning what you may observe. Sometimes it's an instrument that allows you to see the universe in a different way, a way we've never looked at it before, and then you feel the magic. Sometimes it's an observation, discovering a new asteroid or new supernova in a galaxy. You get that same magical feeling because you're in contact with a living universe where things are constantly changing. And that's magic as well. The strange atmosphere you experience on Mauna Kea, I think it's obviously due to the lack of oxygen. Your senses are affected. You're a little slower, a bit more sluggish, and also you perceive things differently. And it's also a bit strange because we're so isolated. There's nobody around. So it's a bit like the monasteries of the Middle Ages. And it really is, in fact, like a monastery because there's a search for knowledge, and we work alone. We're on a modern spiritual quest, the scientific quest. Of course, we're tired after a long night of observing, but this is the reward. So we enjoy the view before going to bed, and then sleep through the day before we get up to start another night. Mauna Kea is the highest mountain in the world, measured from the base of the seabed. It's a mountain that's 13,000 meters from the base to the summit. Everest, with an altitude of 8,000 meters, is higher, but is already on a plateau, so its height is actually less. Mauna Kea is the tallest mountain on Earth.
Treading these desolate expanses is also an encounter with the myths and legends of Big Island. The summit of Mauna Kea is a sacred place.
Mauna means mountain. Kea means white. Mauna Kea is a sacred spot in Hawaiian tradition because it's where the gods of the heavens meet the gods of earth, thus giving birth to humanity. So it's the center of the universe for Polynesians. It's a very sacred spot for them, for all of Polynesia.
This shrine marks the highest point of Hawaii. Mauna Kea is so sacred that the Hawaiians celebrate their most secret rituals here. In the midst of this desert lie the tombs of the great Hawaiian chiefs. The mystery remains intact. As a mark of honor, their remains were placed here as near as possible to the gods. Those who tread this barren desert, swept by the winds and snowed under in winter, find themselves pervaded with an eerie impression. A voyage suspended between heaven and earth. Life seems to be thriving at the foot of the volcanoes. From north to south, east to west, each of the cardinal points has its own specific climate. Big Island is in a restless mood. Whenever he can, Olivier spends time transmitting his passion to his son, teaching him about the planets and stars.
I'm often away doing my observations up on Mauna Kea, and the children aren't allowed up there on account of the lack of oxygen. So this is a way of showing him just what you can see through a telescope and letting him see the wonders of the sky for himself.
This is how you control the telescope. You can tell it what object this way. Okay? Now, maybe we can try. Wait.
Oh, yeah, the sailboat?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You can try lining it up on the sailboat. You remember Saturn?
Yeah.
It's the one with the rings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that.
That one.
And Jupiter?
I remember in the sky map.
Yeah.
It showed Venus
Uh-huh.
was in the Scorpion.
That was for back then. Because that was in summer, right?
According to an Hawaiian legend, the universe was formed from the marriage of darkness and light. In the warm glow of the sunset, the Pacific pays homage in its own way to the mystery of its origins.